convinced myself I was happy, doing okay. I am so lost, so very alone. I just got back from milking 95 head of cows. Gives me time to think about what I've been feeling.
The credits roll, and I hurry to grab my coat, straighten my baseball cap, fearful that every emotion I was laughing off to myself in order not to let them out would pour out in the lobby. I could not look anyone in the eye for fear I would not know how to speak to them. I stumble out confused with a piercing pain in my chest and stomach. My phone rings and I find it hard to breathe and speak to my ex on the line. I huff out, "I just saw Brokeback Mountain. I really can't talk right now."
When the movie ended, I stayed in my seat through the credits, giving myself time to get composed before leaving. And by the time I did get up and turn around, I was alone, as the others sitting behind me had already gone, so no one saw how red my eyes were.
I don't recall having a desire to go out and see Brokeback Mountain. I think I assumed it would be all gay bashing, and who would want to see that? Plus, I didn't want to get my heart broken.
You stagger out of the cinema in a daze.
It hit me like a missile.
I was stunned. I sat in the theater alone after everyone left and cried.
It has made me think, reach out, contact the love of my life, consider making geographic moves. In short, it ripped down every wall I built around my heart.
Why do some people walk out of the theater and go to dinner and talk about the weather, while others walk out to find that the horizon has been erased?
Are we so powerfully affected by this movie because so much of our lives are numb, and this movie won't let us be numb?
I met a friend at a party a month after I'd seen Brokeback Mountain. And as usual, we discussed films that we'd recently attended, and he asked me about the Ang Lee film. And I just blurted out, "I can't get it out of my soul."
I think Ang Lee should get his ass over here and clean up my house. It's not my fault I can't get anything done.
Well, after he's done at your house, he needs to come to mine and help the kids with their homework. The teachers at school are probably thinking I'm out of town and my husband's in charge.
We all have stories to tell, just as I'm sharing part of mine here. Our stories are fundamental to how we make sense of the world, how we know and understand one another through joy and suffering. Our stories embody our hopes and dreams and future possibilities.
I am Scottish and live in Spain, and have just come virgin like the Brokeback. It has wrapped a depth charge into my very existence, blown away all of the digressive rubbish 50 years on the planet that filled my brain with, reminding me, perhaps just in time, that love in all its forms is only imperative to which the soul should learn. Ang and the gang, you should be very proud. This is a life-changing work of art.
Remember those two shirts? The smell of grass and mountain air, lingering no more.
Your face and memory, our threadbare sleeves entwined. Come home to me now. I left pieces of me on the road for you to find. Is there anything more than darkness at the end of our journey?
Jack. I lived in the general region of Childress, Texas, where the movie was banned, and well remembered the gay bashings and murders that were not uncommon around here during the late 70s and early 80s, and even still. A friend of mine, who for a while was more than that, was one of many innocent victims. I can't begin to imagine the impact this movie has and will continue to have in my life.
Brokeback Mountain hit me like a Mack truck. It ran right over my body and left tire tracks indelible and permanent on my soul. Every day for more than a month, during long walks, I confronted long-suppressed memories and struggled to come to grips with the demons those memories freed. My first memory, a happy one, stretches back to when I was about 5 or 6. I was holding my grandmother's hand as she introduced me to her cowboy pals, Bud and Manuel. From their scuffed leather boots to their weathered Stetsons, they looked like real men, lean, muscular, with big calloused hands and strong faces tanned by the sun. Bud owned a cattle ranch. Manuel was his foreman. They built barbed wire fences and rode the range together on horseback. Later on, I also realized they shared a bed. Bud and Manuel were gay cowboys, even though neither man would have known what gay meant 60 years ago. In those days, gay folk were called homos or queers. Nobody but Bud and Manuel would have dared ask if they were gay. but everybody sensed Bud belonged to Manuel. They were an inseparable pair, just like my grandmother's married friends. I've thought a lot about Bud and Manuel after viewing Brokeback Mountain. They're long gone, but I wish they were here to share their story with me. How did they forge a relationship in rural California in the 1940s? Three visual metaphors from the film echo in the memories of every gay man who came out when Ennis and Jack were struggling to accept their love. The closet, the bloodied shirts, and the tire iron. Most gay men were wedged in closets so tight and airless we could hardly breathe. We all had our bloodied shirts, the secrets and the pain and hurt we experienced. We all feared the tire iron that could strike suddenly and violently. My gay friends have been attacked with everything from baseball bats and broken bottles to rocks and ice picks. Brokeback Mountain started me on a journey of self-healing. During my walks, I confronted many things I'd long suppressed. Everything came spilling out, and with the help of friends, I worked through it all. I wouldn't trade that journey for anything. It has led me to self-understanding and self-acceptance. I call it the Brokeback Miracle.
I am a 56-year-old divorced woman. I've had such an incredible experience after watching Brokeback Mountain that I'm still sorting out my emotions. I had low expectations going into the movie due to all the hoopla and the negative comments, but I was not prepared in any way for what happened to me as I watched it. I have never understood how people of the same sex could love each other like a man and a woman. I've tried in my life to come to terms with this, but without success. Then, as I was sitting there watching Jack and Ennis, it started to hit me with such power that I couldn't control it. That's what Brokeback Mountain did for me. I know how beautiful love between two men can be. I have to stop now because I'm crying and I'm overcome with my emotions. Cost of movie tickets, $42 for 6 showings. Weight gained on a diet of popcorn, Junior Mints, and Cherry Coke, 7.3 pounds. Boxes of Kleenex to dry unexplained bouts of crying, 4. Money spent on eBay for I Heart Gay Cowboys t-shirt, $13. Believing in love again as I watched the dozy embrace, priceless.
A lot of people, myself included, have been confused and a little bit freaked out by their strong emotional reactions to Brokeback Mountain. To wit, the tears that seem almost non-stop in the weeks after first seeing the movie or reading the book, and that seem to kick right back in at the drop of a cowboy hat in the months that followed. Some have said it felt like Brokeback Mountain uncovered a well of sadness in them that they didn't know existed, which also applies to me. What didn't make sense to me was why people with seemingly little in common, male or female, straight or gay, happily married or divorced, single or partnered, all ended up the same way, sobbing as if our hearts would break. I think each of us who has had this reaction has experienced severe emotional wounding that, up until now, has never been healed by grieving. I also think that the reason we had not grieved up until now is that the wounding, even though severe, was a slow process. So slow that many of us didn't even know we had been hurt until we saw the slow, indisputable proof laid out before us on the screen or page, and realized that, to varying degrees, it was the story of our wounding being told.
Everyone should have the opportunity to watch Brokeback Mountain. This masterpiece is a weapon against ignorance, intolerance, and the like. Rimbaud thought that poetry can change a life. I am one of those who believe that Brokeback Mountain can change a life.
I am 61. No man who is gay does not live in the closet, betraying the truth about himself, denying who he is by presenting himself as who he is not, often many times a day, in the bank, in the laundry, at the gas station, to a neighbor, to a stranger. Not just for convenience, but out of fear, mistrust, anxiety that's a low-grade constant. Because no gay man has not seen the hostility, not encountered the contempt at one time or another. Few have not felt personally threatened. Many have felt the smashing blows. Every gay man at one time knows the toll this disdain or derision takes. But if it is sometimes dealt with ably, often it is not.
I grew up in Jackson, Wyoming, before it was a ski area. It was just a way of life. The last century has changed around here in Wyoming a fair amount, but maybe not as much as the rest of the world. I think it has to do with the harshness of the landscape. A lot of people who come here don't appreciate the wild, sheer majesty of this part of the world. That's what I love about it the most. I have to say that when I'm around large groups of people, I'm apprehensive. But when I'm in the middle of a ground blizzard, I feel comforted. I don't know what to expect from people. But while this country is unforgiving, if you respect it, then you will be rewarded with wonders beyond belief. A few days ago, I visited Porcupine Hills, which is near Brokeback Mountain in the Bighorns. This Brokeback has an N in it and is an actual mountain. On the way back up, I lost my footing and fell. I knocked over a rock, and there was one of those lapel pins underneath. It was all rusted up, but I could read the inscription. Are we over the rainbow yet?
It was nobody's business but theirs. And yet above, standing sentinel, a tree took in, along with sunlight, the radiance of an arm, a leg embracing madly the other one, sheen of flank and thigh, dark hair, light, bodies twisting, a vow, a threat, a promise of love beyond love's own tired meaning. They imagined themselves invisible, yet sighing as they did, the boughs in the wind watched. Trembling as they did, the branches longed to embrace too. The embrace upon the pine's own scattered needles. Summer ended, years passed, a tree cut down for firewood. But within the fire from 63 glowed there the memory of a love long past, an after image like the sun behind the clouds, behind closed eyes.
Friend, do you know that when I first laid my eyes on you, I made a place for you in my heart, and all these years that little feeling never has left me. No matter how long, no matter how far we've been apart, Lord knows I've chased you all the while. I've looked you up, I've tracked you down. One time I drove 1,000 miles to see you, only to turn right around. Friend, there will always be, and not much I would do. All that's to say that I've spent my whole
While Annie Proulx may have intended to write a story about the destructiveness of homophobia, I think she wrote about something else of which perhaps even she was unaware. A story about the destructiveness of emotional and physical abuse and the neglect of young boys. Had both Jack and Ennis had childhoods built on love, I'd like to believe they would have had the means to make things work, or at least make better choices. Without that foundation, they were doomed from birth. I find myself crying at inappropriate times. Real life has almost never felt this painfully real.
What is it about this movie? It keeps kicking me around. It's like everything I shoved away just so I could survive has decided to visit me in full measure.
I'm a lesbian and struggling to find happiness in my life. I have issues to resolve with a special lady in my life, and I have some individuals in my past who linger in my memories as a disappointment. Of course, there are also straight women around me today who cannot return my affections, even if some of them in another world would feel safe to explore that side of themselves. So the movie hit home for me. The concepts of lost love, of impossible circumstances, of waiting, of hoping, of settling for crumbs when you are capable of giving so much more.
I'm 19. I came out when I was 14. We go through a lot that shapes who we are, and how we view gay people, and how we relate to others and have relationships. Growing up in a small town where I came out, I've had so much emotional and personal shit to deal with. I was met with a lot of tension and hate. It scared me. To this day, I have a hard time accepting and loving myself. Well, Brokeback Mountain shows me what not to do. It also shows me that there isn't just one type of gay man. There's connection to be found and shared between two people that no one else can verbalize, not even the people involved. Brokeback Mountain showed me that there are people out there who will love you for what you are, despite all your flaws and tragedies. And that life and relationships aren't easy. There isn't always one happy ending. But the choices we make define us. And sometimes we have choices for a happier future.
Brokeback provided us with a language of loss that we could all understand. Brokeback hit us directly in the heart and ripped our protective layers to shreds. It left us vulnerable and raw, but also alive. Brokeback cannot give meaning or purpose to our lives, but it has exposed the need, shown us that we may have lost our direction, and we need to reclaim it.
I don't want to be known as a white woman. When someone sees me, I want them to think more than aging hippie. I'm both, but much, much more. And more than that, I believe this is true of everyone. I've been reading that those who control language control far more. Categories, pigeonholes, gay, bi, straight, are social constructs. They can be part of one's identity if one wants, but they aren't the person. It's wonderful when we train our eyes and hearts to see the entire person instead of one feature. It's too bad we can't teach that to our kids in school. It would go a long way towards eliminating bigotry.
My son had several girlfriends, some quite serious, but it was only when we saw him with Alan that my husband and I realized he really loved him. It's been so good for us to see that he has this capacity to really love someone. To me, he's just my son who happens to love a man. Like everyone else, this film has got me good. I went to see it to help me understand my gay son, but you won't be surprised to hear that the person I understand better now is myself. I took my 14-year-old daughter to see Brokeback Mountain. She's in her last year of middle school, thank God, and "that's so gay" phrase that they all like to throw around is something I've been lecturing against to no avail. She's a sensitive kid, though, and I thought she could handle the movie, so we went. Halfway through, she was sniffling. When the postcard came back marked deceased, she started sobbing and didn't stop till we left the theater. She talked all the way home about how sorry she feels for Ennis and Jack. How could Ennis bear to live? She declared that she thinks he'll commit suicide. I pointed out that she was talking about them like they were real people, not movie characters, to give her a mirror, and she paused to say, "But they were so real, it didn't feel like a movie."
The minimum age to see Brokeback Mountain in Finland is 11. My friend's daughter is 14. Her class sees 2 movies together each semester,